Hello, America, and welcome to the only podcast brave enough to say that we're gangster to put 2 marshmallows in our hot cocoa. Yes, I am your host, Blaze Fitzgerald Ryan, hosting our episode, again, of A24 on the Rocks. I am joined by our usually esteemed guests, but we also have another special guest on the program with us tonight. Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Chris Para. I used to be on a podcast with 3 out of the 4 people here, other people. Good to see you guys again.
What are you drinking, by the way, Chris?
Oh, I am drinking a nice Fat Tire Amber Ale tonight.
Wonderful, wonderful.
All right, good evening, world. This is Kevin K. Konachek, and tonight I am drinking a Michter's Straight Rye Single Barrel whiskey. Because, whiskey's delicious, and I've said it time and time again that life is much better when you have a glass of whiskey in your hand. So, on to the Kiskas.
My name's Eric Kiska, and I am drinking a raspberry ghost-style tart ale from Eastern Market Brewing Company, which is brewed in Detroit's Eastern Market. Up next...
Is it ghost style?
Ghost style. G-O-S-E.
Ghost
G-O-S-E.
Oh, goes. Oh, okay. Yeah. I like ghost style better.
I don't know, that's just what I said.
Style beer. It's so spooky.
Up next
spooky beer.
Pumpkin ale and it'll be ruined.
To round out the Kiskas, my name is Kelly. I am following the namesake of our show tonight, which I don't usually do, so I'm having a drink on the rocks. It is a Michigan-made Aquavit, the end of the bottle that we started like
yeah, I remember that. It was like the first
ago.
5 episodes you were drinking Aquavit.
After we went to Norway. Yep.
Yeah.
And once again, my name is Blaze Ryan, and tonight I am drinking an Angry Orchard hard cider. Cole couldn't make it. He's preparing for the end of the world. Which he probably really might be. That might not be a joke.
No, he might not, yeah. I could see Cole being, an end of the worlder. Apocalypse
Nick Offerman and Last of Us.
A24 on the rocks.
There we go. So our movie tonight is Morris from America. Morris from America is a 2016 film from writer-director Chad Harrington. He's Irish, and he directed This Is Martin
Chad
Palmer
Hartigan.
and
Hartigan.
Little Fish. Hartigan. Why did I have Harrington? Okay. The movie premiered at the Sundance Film Festival to critical praise, but it only made $91,000 in the box office, so wasn't really a huge commercial hit. A quick rundown of the movie is it's about 13-year-old Morris, who moved to Germany from America with his dad, played by Daniel Craig.
What? Craig Robinson.
And it's about his...
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig's from James Bond.
Oh my god.
That's so much better. Let's just do that for the rest of the night. Daniel Craig, 007.
Oh, no.
Oh, I love you, Blaze, but keep going.
Oh, we're off to a great start. Okay. Played by Craig Robinson.
Very different.
As he navigates his life in the new culture, meeting women, trying to get his rap career off the ground, and many other misadventures that we have throughout the movie. So, I like to go back to what our old rubbing stone is, opening vibes of this movie. We open up on Craig Robinson and Morris listening to an old school rap music, getting in a quick parent and son fun fight, and then going out for ice cream. So, Chris, what did you think of the first couple moments of this movie?
I thought it set the tone pretty good. You got to see the father-son relationship that those two have built while they're over there. You could definitely see that Curtis is old school, and Mo is definitely new school in that aspect.
Eric, what did you think of the opening scene?
Yeah, I definitely got father-son, coming-of-age tale feels right away. And seeing Craig Robinson, not Daniel Craig, is always... he's a very comforting figure. I remember him from The Office, remember him from This Is the End. He's been in some of my favorite TV shows and movies in the last 20 years, so seeing him as this lovable father figure was, I really enjoyed it. And Markees Christmas played the son, Morris, and I've never seen him in anything before, and I enjoyed him a lot.
Kelly, how'd you like the opening of this film?
Yeah, I immediately liked the cinematography of having really bright, high contrast, like lens that we're seeing this whole world through, and that carries on throughout the whole movie. I feel like we watch a lot of movies from A24 that are a little bit dulled in their color scheme, and this is the total opposite. I also agree that I would ground a child for not liking my music taste. So I immediately like Dad, and I also immediately got the vibe that like this is a single dad who like his kid's possibly his only friend, and in the world that they're in, over in, when I didn't know it was going to be Germany right away, but I loved how we start inside, and then when we go outside, I was like, oh, he's from America. We're not in America, and that's really, like, in-your-face obvious without telling you with words. And that's what I always say a movie should do, is show you, not tell you. And they accomplished that right away.
Reach. Kevin, what about you? How did you feel?
So for my part, right away when I first started the movie, the first thing I tuned right into was the soundtrack. I could tell that there was going to be a good base for this movie, and it was hip-hop. And you could kind of tell from the way that they framed those opening shots and the way they made it immediately important that this was going to be kind of the groundwork for the rest of the film. And I really appreciated that. So my first notes are about the music. And for me personally, in a movie, that's what I love. Hip-hop and I don't have a great relationship because I just don't necessarily know enough about it in general. But it's still a great way to start the movie for me. And then to introduce your characters as having that relationship. I agree with Kelly 100%. I'm absolutely grounding a child for not having my same taste in music. It won't be negotiable. They will be listening to nothing but the Grateful Dead from the time they can breathe until they can walk. But anyway, I digress. I love the opening themes where it really set the two characters as being the focal point, their relationship. You guys all touched on it, so those things and more.
I'm really glad you brought up the music. I think we all know how important music, hip-hop, there's a lot of German EDM sprinkled throughout the film as well. But the main thing is rap and hip-hop, especially, as one of you said correctly, the clash between old school and new school between Morris and Curtis, his dad, since I don't want to mess up the actor's name anymore. So I guess my question is, Kevin, you kind of alluded to already, but what is your history with hip-hop? Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that, you know, even though it was pronounced in the movie, is this something that you have a background in? Is it something that you love to either make or listen to, etc.?
Yeah,
so
go ahead. Yeah. So I don't know if you were asking me that question or not.
No, I'm gonna.
No, like I said in my previous response, I'm very limited in my hip hop knowledge. I'm looking for more. I'd love to get into it. What I do like about hip hop is the old school. So I'm on Curtis on this side. Some of the older the roots, some of the old roots stuff. You know, Questlove, some of the older hip hop icons I enjoy. Maybe not so much of the new stuff, but the old stuff.
All right. Eric?
I think everyone here knows I'm from Metro Detroit, so in the 5th grade, my sisters bought a Slim Shady LP that I listened to and learned every swear word in the book. And so I grew up with Eminem, from Slim Shady LP into the Marshall Mathers LP, and then I, went on to Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne I was obsessed with for a while. Tupac, I got into Tupac right after Biggie. I got into a lot of 90s rap combined with, I'd say, Lil Wayne and Eminem growing up. And yeah, those guys I listened to them constantly all the time. I was constantly rotating between classic rock and then listening to rap. And it was just like a weird, back and forth between that. But, I enjoyed rap a lot growing up, still do. And there's still a lot of, this movie featured a lot of indie rappers, too. And I'm still finding indie rappers I like today.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm sure you had one of the worst shuffles on the on the iPhone.
Yep.
Kelly, how about you? You a big hip-hop head?
Nope, this ain't my world. Not at all. I did like in the movie and the way that they used it. I don't know if this was original hip-hop or if it's an artist that already exists, but I did note that a lot of the things that they're talking about were old world brought to new world. They mentioned a lot of philosophy. They mentioned green tea and pomegranates, and it was the perfect things to be in the song that's happening in the real world. It was this really cool blend of old and new, not just in the world of hip-hop, but in the architecture and the world that they exist in. I thought that was cool.
Chris, you want to round us out? I know
Hip
you
hop.
look like- yeah.
Yeah, hip hop. I'm just the biggest fan. No, not at
ICP,
all.
right?
Of course, all day. No, I don't really do hip hop. If it's on at the bar, at the club, if when I was younger, it's fine. But classic rock for me all day. That's where my bread and butter's at.
My first girlfriend was a big juggalette, I think they call it. My first girlfriend ever, and I delved into that scene a little bit when I was in the 8th grade, and they were all a bunch of older dudes that were, doing way too many drugs, and I was just in the 8th grade, like, what's going on right now? And yeah, so I do have a little experience with ICP at least.
Drinking Faygo on the rocks.
Whoop whoop.
Anyways, so I am actually like I want to interject on this just because I am really big into hip hop. I used to be a ghostwriter for a local rapper, Rama. You might know him, Chris. And I've always had the affinity of wordplay, puns. The way that cadence works, the way that the beats work, the way that it goes back to written word in general. So the way that this movie incorporated, again, blending the old with the new. There's a lot of old beats, but with a lot of new, fresh-sounding lyrics. So I really like the clash of all that. And I really feel like the movie did an excellent job in nailing down that, generational gap and bridging it through the music. For me, this movie really felt like a blend of movies. And I'm not saying it's the first movie to come up with this concept, but for me, it was a hybrid of a fish out of water and a coming-of-age movie at the same time. Now, I know how I feel, but did one sort of style, fish out of water versus coming of age, did one work better for you, or did they work together in a perfect blend, or did neither of them work? So Kevin, can I start with you? And I can clarify if needed.
So I'll get into this when I get to my reviews and all of that jazz, but my only big critique from this film was kind of the lack of story. I didn't feel like there was a lot of plot outside of what we get to see from Morris's everyday life, which was compelling and interesting in a lot of ways, but there really wasn't I don't necessarily a conflict to get over. We kind of saw some of that with some of the girlfriend things, but for me, I was just kind of waiting for something more to kind of progress. So it was more of a coming of age story, to answer your question. For me, it was definitely more focused on Morris kind of navigating the adolescence and the things of popularity in high school and dealing with girlfriends, and being an American in Germany obviously is going to be a fish out of water, but I think more focused on the coming of age part of it for me.
Absolutely. Kelly, do you have anything to?
Yeah, I think it's a total blend of the two. Not only is he a fish out of water being American, he's also Black American in Germany, and there's no other Black people around him in any sort. His dad tells him we're the only two brothers around here, which that's on top of, like you said, the coming of age with the girlfriends and the finding some freedom, and the kid's only 13 and he gets into some wild antics, and it just put into perspective for me, I think that kids grow up a lot faster in Germany in some ways, but depending on where you are in America, maybe you grow up faster. It gave me a lot to think about while still being pretty lighthearted in what it was doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Chris, did you get a stronger pull from about a kid growing up in any society, or more about a kid from America trying to indoctrinate himself into the culture of Germany?
I don't necessarily think he was trying to indoctrinate himself. I think I don't know, it's almost like he was trying to live like he was in New York, be this, this rapper, this gangster, but he's stuck in an old school world almost in that sense. I think it's a good blend between the fish out of water and coming of age story, though. I thought they did that pretty well.
Okay, good, yeah. Eric, do you have any final thoughts?
Same here, yeah. I thought it was a good blend. I think the father-son story definitely, and the crush on the girl in the movie, it was a coming-of-age story from that angle, but it equally served me, how unique it would be to be the only Black kid in a town full of German people, and we were not underserved on just kind of the racial dog whistles in this movie from the random German people, just constantly stereotyping them all the time.
Yeah, no, that's very funny that you bring that up. I was going to say, like, as a broader sense of where you can both say fish out of water and coming of age story, it is about Sunday school teacher or whatever that found weed in the back, and he automatically blames, the new American black kid. And yeah, I thought that was very interesting. That really was like one of those, like, just overtly, like you said, that's not even a dog.
Yeah, it's just straight up racist. Yeah.
So next, I want to talk about my favorite part of the movie. Again, like Kevin said, like, it's very hard to say that a plot happened. It just feels like a bunch of stuff happened, and it was in chronological order. But to say there was, it sounded like he was always having a problem. Kelly, the cinematography in this movie absolutely blew me away. Was there any, like, standout shots that caught you?
The standout shot for me, so like I had mentioned, just the high contrast that carries throughout the whole movie, I thought was just, like, really refreshing and different. The standout shot was when he goes to the old castle and he's listening to music on out of his earbuds, and everybody's bopping their head while they're looking at the art to the tune of his music. That, I laughed out loud, and then I was like, this is such a clever thing to do, and it makes me feel so many things, and it is just delightful. I loved that they did that, and I think cinematography as a whole throughout this whole movie was really well received by my eyes. I really liked it.
Cool. Kevin, was anything that you saw that, like, really wowed you as far as cinematography, or as cinematography in a whole? You can say it in, like Kelly did.
Absolutely. So there were several points in this movie where it went out of its way to make sure that you knew that you were watching an indie film, especially an A24 film. So we had some very interesting slow motion shots. There's that one where our main protagonist, or the female character, I'm blanking on her name right now, Katrin is walking, like, towards the screen, and it's slow motion, almost like it's like a superhero or something along those lines. My favorite scene was when he gets convinced to go to the house for the first time before he gets pranked, and she approaches him with the cigarette, and the smoke scene where she's blowing kind of the smoke in his general direction. They just took some really cool attention to some very specific scenes to make them just a little bit more pretty, a little bit more vibrant. When they get in the car, and we get some wide shots of the green fields, as we see a lot of the scenery of our European setting. So I love the cinematography. Like Kelly said, it played well when it was needed, and it wasn't over the top at any point in time, and they made it very apparent that it was something that they focused on through this film.
Eric, so especially, like, when we talk about the cityscape that they showed, do you think they highlighted, like, an old town German city? Like,
definitely.
As,
yeah.
Like the tourism board came out with it?
Oh, yeah, maybe tourism board, but, like, I didn't even know, like, I knew it probably was in a different country in the first two scenes, because we go from a scene between Morris and his dad to Morris and the German teacher, and then we see, like, an establishing shot of Heidelberg. And then we see all this beautiful old German architecture, like it's straight out of a fairy tale. There was some great establishing shots of Heidelberg, and I also agree with Kelly about the scene in the castle. I've definitely been, I've been walking around listening to music, and I feel like everybody is moving to the beat or tone of my music before, and so I felt that. I know it was like a surrealist scene, but like I've definitely felt like where I've been really into a song walking around, and then everybody around me is like, oh, you're all part of a soundtrack right now. And so I really felt that scene actually to my core.
That's awesome. No, that's one of my favorites as well. Chris, do you have anything to follow up on that?
Yeah, so I think when he was doing the little talent show, how everyone else is all, like, dressed in all the fun colors, and he's just there black and white. That's it. It's a beautiful contrast, I thought.
Against a yellow background as well, which really, accentuates that. Yeah, that's really, like I said, I love the cinematography. I think 3 shots really stuck out for me. There was a shot where they had just left the talent show, and they were eating, and that fountain behind them was going off, like, as, like, it seemed like his blood pressure was rising because this pretty girl was giving him attention. The other thing is, like, I think, like, the movie does spell it out, but the way the camera angle works on Curtis about how lonely he is through the loss of his wife and his son growing up, there's a lot of cool, like, shots of him at a table by himself, and it was, like, zoomed up, and away, and you could really just see like the emptiness of the house that he was going through. And then my final favorite shot, and I actually like watched it a couple times because I loved it so much, was when they were on, well, he wasn't on ecstasy, Katrin was on ecstasy, and they go into this like slow motion dance, and like I've like felt that before, like dancing with someone, and like just the pure, like, you know, not to use a pun, ecstasy of it all. You know, I think it really did a really good job at conveying the emotions, and I think the camera work did way more than I think we give a lot of movies credit for. So,
I like, if I can also add to that, that scene also then being followed up by like the camera like shoots like up the stairs off of all these faces we've never seen, and then we see his tutor's face, like almost like in like a little circle, and the expression she makes is like chef's kiss. Loved that scene.
So okay, no, love that scene. So this is a very character heavy story, and I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't like run through all the main characters really quickly. So I each assigned you a character. I wanted you to give me your overall impression of them, and what your favorite thing, what your least favorite thing. You know, just give us all, you know, a good, well-rounded character development for the character I'm giving you. So to our lucky esteemed guests, Chris, what do you think of the character of Morris?
I thought the actor who played him did a phenomenal job with the role. You could tell that he put his heart and soul into this to really get the best out of Craig Robinson too. I think it's hard to judge him off of this role because I've never seen him in anything else. But when he's talking with his tutor, you could tell that he is trying to stay true to himself, you know, being this gangster that he is, but she's slowly almost like breaking down that exterior, making him more of a charming person like he wants to be. So I thought Maurice was very good.
Good. Eric, what did you think of Inka, the German teacher?
I didn't like how she snitched, but like I'm not a big fan of snitches, but snitches get stitches, you know, that's the old saying. But I think otherwise than that, she was actually a pretty like lovable and commendable German teacher for Morris, and I felt like, you know, she was a true buddy to him in a time when he really needed a buddy, but also somebody a little bit older than him to, like, between him and his dad, to kind of guide him through this coming of age that he's going through. And, you know, he's 13, and, you know, he's probably got hormones galore right now, and this movie is not short on, you know, showing how, you know, how many hormones he has, but yeah, she is kind of like a good guiding light for him in this time.
Not to like throw it right back at you, but what do you think the significance was of her boyfriend being in America, if there was anything? Like, I didn't really understand that plot.
Yeah, and then she said, like, I'm not German. Maybe she's Austrian. I don't know, but I didn't really catch much significance. Just maybe the dad knew her somehow, or maybe because her boyfriend was American, or she spent time in America, she would be a better German teacher for him. But I didn't pick up anything.
No, he's German. He went to America to learn English. I think that was like
the boyfriend did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't pick up anything deeper about it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really either. I just wanted to ask you since you know that was like one of those like lingering plot threads. Kelly, speaking of Curtis, what do you think of his character played by Craig Robinson?
Curtis the dad. I think he's totally. There's parents. There's a reason. Like, as someone who's not a parent, you can't be. So take it with a grain of salt. You can't be friends with your children, and I think that he's an example why. There's no doubt he loves his son and he'll do anything for him, but that kid is desperately trying to get his own, like, sense of life that doesn't involve his dad, and his dad's, like, the way that I interpreted him, he's, like, constantly, like, but I miss my friend. I want my friend to come back home. I got you a present. I guess I'll just play with it. My favorite scene of him, I think, and in the second half of this movie, I wasn't as engaged as I was in the first half, but he calls the sex hotline, and he just looks like bored out of his skull and he's just looking at pictures of his wife, and I'm like, this man just needs connection like anywhere he can get it, but he wants like genuine connection. And your 13-year-old son, he's grown up, he's going to start his own life, and I think it was really cool to watch his character have like, he grew up too. You know, he was like, I need to let my son be an adult and I need to not rely on him for everything. That's the feeling I kept getting from him, and he's not a bad person for it. Like, I totally get it. I think they did a great job just towing that line for his character, and I think he did a good job portraying it. I know him from The Office. It was cool seeing him play this character instead. Both actor and character, I think, well portrayed, well written.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. He was my favorite. Kevin, Katrin, the love interest. She definitely goes through a lot as a character. What do you think of her character and how she played throughout the movie?
Acting job, fantastic. But again, it's when you don't have a lot of structure in what you're doing, you're just kind of having conversations that you would normally be having. And then you have this language barrier, right? So a lot of this film is spoken in German, and some of it is in English, and some of their scenes in between those two are also in English and German. So that, of course, takes some skill and some acting chops. And she, of course, did a great job there. But from the character standpoint, I couldn't really feel what her end game was. What was she going for? Was she trying to just get to know Morris because he was a curiosity to her? And that includes pranking him and bringing him around to these concerts. And there is some genuine interest from her character towards him, but clearly not in anything more than I've never been around an American, probably an African-American before, and she's just curious. What a 15 or 16-year-old teenage girl would be, asking the questions, finding out what it is, hip-hop. We get that awkward scene when she's asking things about him and she asks if he has a big dick. And it's like, it's interesting that it's very awkward, but it also feels like that's kind of what she really is, just truly trying to figure out who this guy is. Not from any other perspective other than just from a curious standpoint. The subplot with her mom was interesting. I thought that it kind of gave her like a grounding force on why she maybe is the way she is. She has no interest in staying in town. She knows that she's going to be leaving, and you could tell from kind of her interactions that was apparent. So good job on that. I did appreciate the way that it wrapped up, and I'm sure we'll get to the ending, but she has got a big part in all of that. I will give her that. The club scenes were fun. I liked the slow-moing and the dancing and just kind of her interaction. As one of the main characters, the movie doesn't really work without her. So I thought that in general she did a very good job of bringing Morris out and, making the title seem relevant.
Eric, did you want to say something?
I was going to say, I understand her character, I think. I felt like she was in her rebel phase. She was 15. It'd be easy to, not like her in this movie just because of how she kind of, plays Morris around. But, I feel like is in this very rebellious phase in her life, which, as a teenager, I think everybody's allowed to be in. The big dick comment was very odd. That's also kind of a racial dog whistle, too. But at the same time, yeah, she's this German girl who, she just is doing whatever can be contrarian and edgy at the time. I understood her character, and I felt like it was still a good character to have in the movie and to have her be the main focal point opposite Morris.
Yeah, I agree. And I also don't think, she's as negative as, maybe the movie, unintentionally portrayed her. Because, I think you're right. She is just trying to figure her own life out.
She's only 15.
What seems like a terrible family life, and it seems like, I guess, you have to take the water gun scene on face that she, really meant for it to be, a harmless prank. Because then her character kind of breaks a little bit, and then also leaving him when she knows he doesn't have a cell phone in a different city.
That sucks.
But it all blows over with a letter, so that's very sweet. Kevin kind of put it up, but I thought this was kind of a fun little thing. There's a lot of strange places where they have parties in this movie. There's under the bridge, a castle, and a random German discotheque. So, my fellow student panel, where is the weirdest place you've ever partied? Kevin.
Weirdest? I actually have the answer for that. It was, and this is in a non-creepy way, it was in the Children's Museum of Marquette.
Oh, I bet I
Because
was at that party.
we convinced the owner that we were having an alumni get-together, and then me and my bandmates, named the Funky Purple Tits, threw a kegger in the Children's Museum and had a concert inside and played in the jungle, and we're all dressed up, and yeah, so that's definitely the coolest, wildest place I've ever had a party.
You can keep it anonymous. But which children's museum? Like, was it?
No, I just said it. It was the one in Marquette, Michigan.
I think it's just called the
straight up,
Marquette's
okay,
Children's Museum. Yeah,
like Eric said, he was at that party. So.
Yep. There was also like a play or a fake plane, like a little plane that you could actually like get in, act like you're flying around and stuff, and there was like a bunch of random shit there, and
oh my god, it was wild. It was a night.
All right, Kelly, where's the weirdest place you've ever thrown it down?
Yeah,
Bunch of
so
friends.
this will be exciting for you guys. I thought about it. It's in a Chicago suburb, and I won't name where, in a hotel that's hexagon shaped, and it's 6 stories tall. So we had a penthouse party, and you had this whole balcony that was out on the back, and then there was roof after it. I have to explain way too much architecture to get there. But basically, you could walk out on the roof, and then if you did a little hop, and remember we're 6 stories up, you could get to the other roof and another balcony, and there's another penthouse, which was empty. And we thought, what are the chances that they just leave that sliding door unlocked?
Well, this was
Probably
after
0.
the wedding. Yeah.
Yes, this is after a wedding.
Okay,
and
I was there too.
We totally got in. Eric's at every weird party.
Wait, you got into the empty penthouse?
Yes,
Yep.
So the empty penthouse, they totally didn't lock it. We got in there. It's not like we were going to do anything big. We weren't going to put music in there. But the euphoria of doing that little jump and getting in there and being like, we're not supposed to be here. It was like, that was amazing.
Hell yeah.
That's really cool. All right, Chris.
I'm kind of lame compared to you guys. I
You just
I
gotta
don't
think
have
of
any
a party
wild
that
stories
Eric
like
was
that.
at.
My kitchen
Yeah.
there, right?
No, I mean I guess the weirdest place I've ever been drunk in is Afghanistan, but that's not really a party.
Yeah.
True.
No, that's not really a party, no.
Was it the
No,
barracks
so-
though? Like,
I mean, you
Obviously.
can call it barracks. We were in the middle of moving from one base to another, and I had a care package sent to me, and it was like 4 bottles of water bottles filled with vodka, and I was like, all right, boys, we're having a good night.
Oh boy.
It was a long night.
Nice.
dance in the desert.
Oof, yeah.
All right, Eric, since you've already been to 2, I can't wait to hear what your 1 is.
So I was in prison and I made some toilet wine one time. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, like, let me think. So, okay, there was one time, this was actually a birthday that I had, and this is Marquette again. There was a man-made fort, in Marquette. You'd be hiking down to a place called Hidden Beach, and you'd take a right, follow this little path, and you'd have to hike up a hill, and somebody made a fort up there, and my friend and I decided to invite some people and try to bring a keg up there. And we tried to get there early, and it was just my friend and I lugging the keg, and it was like a quarter keg, so, it wasn't a full keg, but either way, we could not get up the hill with this keg. We were just like, oh, fuck, dude, there's no way we're getting up this hill. And so we started yelling, we heard people up there, rummaging around, and we were like, hey, please help, we have a keg down here. And then they said, you have a broken leg? And they were like, no, we have a keg! And then we just heard them just, out of nowhere start sprinting down the hill. And these guys helped us carry the keg up. So, but then after we got it up, we were chilling, having a beer. We heard a Coast Guard boat come up on Lake Superior, over a loudspeaker where you could hear them saying, is everyone okay out there? Are you okay? And so I guess we were yelling so loud that the Coast Guard came. They thought somebody was drowning. And we just were completely silent and had a good rest of the night in this little man-made fort on top of a hill in Marquette. And yeah, our friends came too. The beer was a little foamy, but it was a good time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great
awesome,
story.
man.
Great
That's
story.
a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
I've never drank before, so we're just gonna go on.
Come on.
The one that comes off of my head, I think there's others, but this is probably one the least illegal, and you know, some nights you can't remember, and that's okay. My buddy worked for a pizza restaurant, and there was like a bar like in the restaurant. I think Chris knows where it is, so I'm really not going to say the name of it. But we convinced him to keep the back door unlocked while like 10, 12 of us like slipped in the back. And we basically drank their liquor cabinet like empty, made like 5 terrible pizzas,
Oh God.
blasted music, and the cops ended up coming. But the one hostess that was like sober, she like convinced them to go away, and like we made off scot-free, which is like one of the craziest things to ever happen. But yeah, I partied in a closed down pizzeria.
Nice.
There you go.
I think I know exactly
Solid.
what you're talking about.
I don't know, don't even
You don't know.
get the Men in Black flasher. Okay, so let's get to the end of this movie. Movie ends pretty abruptly. Morris gets left behind, as we alluded. Morris gets left behind by his German friend Katrin. She goes off with her boyfriend and starts her own life. And Morris has a real heart-to-heart with his dad. He goes home and he kind of like blows off his own steam, and then roll credits. So what did we all think of this ending? Was there any grandiose like message to the end of the movie, or at least I'm going to say what I think, that adolescence goes on, problems continue, and the movie of life doesn't really end. So it's just saying that this movie doesn't have an ending. It's just Morris learned a little through 2 weeks of whatever he was going through. But Chris, what did you get out of the ending? Did anything between the ending monologue between him and Curtis?
It just made me laugh. He tells this nice, long, beautiful story, and then Mo's just like, he's like, well, how do you know it was a girl? And he's just, it's always a girl. That just made me laugh. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good ending for an otherwise non-plot filled movie.
Yeah. Eric, his German teacher ratted on him one last time. How'd you feel about that?
That time it was necessary. Like, he needed to be picked up, and he needed a father-son moment in that moment. Like, there was obviously, something went horribly awry for him to get stuck in, I think, Frankfurt, right? And yeah, like I think his dad needed to pick him up at that point. So that at that point, that's okay to snitch. But the ending and basically just kind of the whole message of this movie, it's a coming of age tale, and I think it's just to stick close to and trust the ones you love and be open with them. Actually, communicate when things are going bad, because there's more people around you that can help you with what's going on with you than you'd ever know. And especially, his dad, he was his companion the whole time, and him trusting his dad, I think, was kind of what came out of that. And with a lot of coming-of-age films, this is different than, Superbad, The Breakfast Club, stuff like that. But there aren't very big plots in those movies. It's getting stuck at Saturday school, or trying to buy alcohol with a fake ID, and go to a party. That's the plots of those movies, and they're still fine. And this movie made me laugh enough to enjoy it, and I think that's the bottom line, is that it made me laugh. It was a comedy and a coming-of-age tale, and it worked.
Awesome. Kevin, I asked you about the Katrin. Did her letter at the end redeem her character, or?
Yeah, absolutely. If we would have just left it with her yelling at him after the jealous tackle into the wall, and that was the end we saw from the character, I would have felt definitely a lot worse about her as a person throughout the whole thing. But yeah, I thought it did put a nice bow on it. For me, it kind of made it feel like Erica alluded to, adolescence happens, right? So this is part of life, and it's a road bump, and now you move forward onto the next adventure, to the next girl, You're going to gain confidence from your hip-hop performance. You're going to gain confidence from, having your first hit of marijuana, from doing the big boy thing at 13. Like, all of those things kind of come together. I really enjoyed the final scene with his dad picking him up from Frankfurt and telling him that story about how he was in Frankfurt following his mom around after 3 months. Like, you could just feel there was something special about Craig Robinson's performance in the way he described his wife. Because we got nothing but a still photograph. We didn't get anything else, really. No real descriptions, nothing else other than she was the finest girl in all of the city. I think he said something along those lines, and just like 3 months, and he fell in love with her. And Kelly, you alluded to that scene earlier when he was on the call with the sex worker, and I just wrote brutal in my notes. Like, that was probably, for me, the most emotional part of the movie, was just kind of seeing him interacting even with his friends at the bar, right? His buddy goes to try to pick up the girl, and he makes the off comment, I hope he gets it. He's just hoping for love, right? He's just hoping for some sort of groundness in his new life. So I thought the ending was great. The Frankfurt, the whole thing was a good bow to an otherwise kind of plotting movie for me, but I did enjoy it. So good on her, good lettering, and I did enjoy the way they finished it.
Kelly, how'd you feel about the ending?
Ending was good. I don't know if I have anything to add. I was listening to Kevin so intently that like my brain went quiet for a moment.
Sorry.
No, it was good. I will say, like, the second half of this movie, I kind of said this earlier too. The first half of it was, like, for me, like, really engaging, really delightful. I really enjoyed it more than I thought that I would. And then in the second half, I was like, I was less engaged. Not to say, like, it was worse or anything, but it was like, okay, like, I understand, like, kind of what's going on. And it's kind of like, give me something bigger to hang on to. And I want to talk about Katrin's letter at the end, too. It redeemed her character. It made it so that she is, like, written as a 15-year-old teenage girl that is gonna kind of play with younger guys sometimes. If she knows that you're into her, she might just kind of string you along a bit. I kind of said, too, like, our kid, he's experimenting with his boundaries and what he's able to do as himself, as a young man that he's becoming. She's doing the same. The fact that she sends that letter in the end redeems her. And I love that they incorporated that, and I think it made this story, like, heartwarming from kind of beginning to end, touching in a lot of areas, but staying heartwarming throughout. So I liked the ending.
One more kind of, like, message I got, when he did the rap, fucking 2 bitches, and then his dad was just like, have you ever fucked 2 bitches at a time? No. Snoop Dogg has, though. That's why he can rap about it. And then he's like, you know what? You need to rap about your unique perspective. You need, like, that is something that only you can rap about. Only you can share your unique perspective. And that's, like, father to a son, like, great words. Just, like, carry your unique perspective and your unique story with you at all times. And that is what is going to make you great, is your unique perspective on things. And so that's definitely a message I took away from this movie, is, like, carry your unique perspective with you everywhere, and your art should be your perspective.
And he got his 8 Mile moment, right? Like, That was phenomenal. He got up there and, like, that rap was great, and it was exactly what his dad told him to do. Mm-hmm. I did not expect him to go to finish it. I honestly thought he was just going to be like, no, I can't do this anymore, and whatever else. But the fact that he washed his face and went up there, total 180 for what I was expecting. So great scene. That was phenomenal.
And, like, a cappella, too.
Yeah.
There was a track for him, and he was just like, don't want it, don't need it.
Nothing. Yeah, that was balls of steel right there. Good on that kid. Yeah.
I would have loved to hear him rap that with German Unz music, though. No, that was a really special moment, too. It's very hard to incorporate it because, like I said, there's a lot of just stuff happening in this movie, and like Kelly said, there's just, like, really no big, like, okay, here's the cat in the tree that we have to go save. So, anyways, so any final thoughts before we get to the grading for this one, Kevin?
So one thing that I think that I really, really enjoyed about this movie was how realistic it felt. It really felt to me like an actual portrayal of what adolescence would be, what it would be like to be in this situation where this family is, what it, even like the awkward scene, and we didn't touch on it, but the body pillow dancing. Like that whole scene in general, like we touched on the hormones and how some of those things get, but to include that, why would you put that in there, right? For any other reason than this is reality. This is exactly what a teenage boy would probably be doing in this situation. And this movie doesn't shy away from that. And it's awkward, but it's real life. And I really enjoyed that about this. I didn't necessarily enjoy some of the other parts, but like in general, it was raw and it felt good. And it was just a good movie from that perspective because it was just real. And I like that.
Oh yeah, no, like I like the part where speaking of like realism and like cringe, but like a good kind of cringe. When he's doing his Jay-Z impression, and she doesn't know who Jay-Z is. He's like, "Fuck you!" It was a great impression. When I was 13, I'd say the exact same thing.
Oh yeah,
Like...
you say that's now.
So yeah, no, the realism was very, very, very cool, and the world did seem lived in a sort of way. Any other thing?
I
Yeah,
was hoping that we would get to hear from Cole because he's self-proclaimed loves a slice of life movie, and this one just drops you in. The camera's just on now, so stay for a while and then you'll leave. So
I had so many Cole lines. I was gonna say, this isn't a slice of life, it's the whole pie, but he's not here, so I guess country boys make do, right?
I liked the line when he says, we're in the same boat, so get on my team. Just like the idea of really those two having to stick together to kind of make this work for both of them. We alluded to the Curtis needing the companionship from his son because he doesn't have a lot of close people in his life, and then Morris needing his dad to be a guiding force so he doesn't think that fucking two bitches is the way that he's gonna go through life, and how thick and gangster, because he's not thick and gangster. He's a soft kid who wants just the best for the world. So I just thought that was good too.
And he's only gonna win a Source Award. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, guys, I think it's time to get to gradings. Eric, let's start with you on this one.
Okay, so I think we've discussed, the major themes in here, the fish out of water and coming of age tale, and I think they do both of those really well. And I've also never really seen a film about like an African American kid being in a small German town and that kind of unique perspective and plot that can derive from that. Like, yeah, I know this film, it largely lacked on save the cat kind of plot, but like it was very good at small stories and details during when you're growing up, but also putting you in such a unique time and place with a unique character to be in that time and place. And I give it major points for that. One more thing I guess we didn't discuss, something I saw on Katrin's board. There was a Spike Lee quote on her board, and it said, "Parents kill more dreams than anybody." And I think this movie was definitely about like having a strong parental figure and trusting them, and what happens also when you don't have a strong parental figure. From Katrin's standpoint, she rebels, she flips out and, follows this pair guy, DJ that travels around everywhere. And you can see the difference in the two teenagers, what they're going through. And when Morris is at his lowest, he has his dad to pick him up. And when Katrin's at her lowest, her mom, isn't there. And that's the difference between both of them. And I think that, that's also a very poignant point for the whole movie. This movie made me laugh a ton. One more thing we didn't mention was the bully playing the flute during the talent show. I laughed my ass off at that. There were so many little like good lines in here and funny parts that I really enjoyed. And I'll say in the end, this is a comedy film. It's a coming of age film, so I'm not going to put it in the A category. But I still do think it did very well at what it was trying to do. So I will give this a B24.
B24. All right, Kevin, what do you got for us?
All right, so what to say that I already have not said about this film in general, right? For me, when I watch some of these films on our list, I hate to approach it the way of homework, but sometimes it does feel that way, right? We know that we have to have a certain movie on a certain timeline. Point being is that this particular film would not be one that I would probably pick out on my own, even after a trailer or a description. So being put into a situation where I have to watch it kind of changes my attitude when I start a film. And as the film progresses, as it can either grab me and hook me and really pull me in, or it can kind of exist in its own world, which is a perfectly fine world, but it may not be the world that I particularly enjoy. I feel like Kelly's kind of had some of these moments in some of these films where she articulates it super well, where it's like, it's great for what it is, but it isn't for me. So is it sweet? Yes. Does it have great writing and great acting? Absolutely. Is it something that I feel needed to be made into a movie? Maybe not. Is it something that is great for a specific audience? Absolutely. I loved some of the slow shots that we get, some of the attention to cinematography. I enjoyed the soundtrack. It blended a perfect amount of different genres. We get some incredible hip-hop influences, right? We get Biggie Smalls, and we get Jay-Z, and then we get some Pavane and some Opus 50 by Gabrielle Fauré. Like, we get these classical moments that are just mixed in with some of these other places. That ballet scene is just chef's kiss for me, because it just really... this hard gangster guy is now seeing just this peaceful moment of music and moment. It was just great. And then to even just have that, that EDM style of things. So to wrap all of those things up, it was a good blend of everything that it was trying to do. Like Eric said, it had those high moments with the comedy, those heavy moments with some of the drama, the life lessons between both of the sides of the parents, and how I articulated how incredibly realistic I felt this movie was in general. So while it wasn't for me, I do think it's for a lot of other people, and I want more people to see it because it does give a great perspective that I think more people in general should see. So for all those reasons, it gets a B24 as well from me.
B24. All right. Let's go to our guest. Let's go to Chris.
Honestly, if it was not for you guys doing this lovely podcast, I don't think I would ever have heard of this movie. Even though I'm on IMDb all the time looking at, my favorite actors and actresses, the stuff they've been in, I've probably seen Craig Robinson's IMDb 100 times, never even noticed this. With that being said, though, I'm glad I watched it. I thought it was very well put together. Obviously it did lack an actual true storyline, the conversations that they've had along the way, I thought they did a very good job with it. I would probably watch it again with somebody who hasn't seen it before. Would I watch it again on my own? Probably not. I felt like I was cheated out of a beautiful Craig Robinson part where he could have had a nice little piano scene and he could have sang like in all the other roles he's done. But it's okay. I enjoyed it still. So I'm going to give it a B plus 24.
Ooh.
Nice.
All right, Miss Kelly.
All right, Mr. Blaze. My cornerstone. So I had my 4 corners that I've talked about in previous reviews, but I've had too much aquavit to tell you what they all are. However, this movie has hit enough of them that I can talk about some other things, and I will keep it brief. So what I'm saying with my cornerstones is you have to hit those in order to get into part 2, which is when I then give some of these notes. It hit the other 2 spots, which is make me care about the characters, and it did do that, and show, don't tell, and I've already given an example of that. Knocked it out of the park in a lot of ways, so it doesn't underestimate the intelligence of its audience, while it just kind of carries you along through the story. But I think that you need to be a specific kind of person watching this movie, and that you appreciate that, and you're not needing maybe your hands held while you're walked through the film, if that makes sense. It's just come along with us, we made it, and take it for what you will. Throughout the whole thing, it's heartwarming, delightful, unique, and funny. It nailed all those. I enjoyed every minute watching this movie, which, like Kevin was saying too, it's not something that I typically would watch or that's my typical flavor. And so it surprised me, and that's always, like I already said, quite delightful. Then comes the biggest question, which is what do I take away from this movie? Why did it exist, and what is it going to give me personally while I walk away? And what I took from it is it's this kind of clashing of old versus new, both in hip-hop, both in European and American ideals, and in the way that people kind of live. But there's certain things that are always going to be the same, and there's always going to be things that the previous generation can teach the younger one because it's just universal, regardless of who, where, why. There's always advice to be given and advice to be taken. So that's kind of my takeaway from it. I don't know if it's what they wanted to say 100%. I'm not saying I'm right, but I thought it was nice. I should probably score it higher, but Kevin kind of said the same thing. It's not my typical flavor. They did everything really, really well, and I would recommend this to people, but I'm still going to just give it, it's above average, but not by much. It's a B minus 24 from me. And that's me liking it a lot.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what all you guys have to say. Aesthetically, this movie was a treat to watch. Sound-wise, I really loved how, every song seemed to match the movie and how, it was progressing. And the characters within this movie, they felt like real people, and they weren't, forcing themselves to, be an archetype of, single father, dead mom, or kid alone who's, in a new part of society. Everyone felt like real, genuine people, and that's really what had me liking this movie. My biggest issue is that it just seemed to not go anywhere, and I agree. Kelly said it before the reviews, but she said you get to the halfway point and you're super invested, and then not that it drops the floor from underneath you. It's just it just keep being slightly irritating to be Morris, which I'm sure is a real plot point, but the lack of a true ending for me, I guess. I say this a lot for movies that I find dumb, maybe it's just too smart for me. I think this movie might actually be too smart for me, because I don't understand the last 20 minutes and why the last 20 minutes existed, and how the first hour and 10 was had me moving along at such a I couldn't wait for the next scene, and then it kind of just stopped. He did his rap, but he already did a rap, so it's okay. Then he's stuck, and his dad just picks him up. They don't even see his dad rushing to get there. He just gets there. The heartfelt speech at the end was great, and I really feel the letter at the end was okay, I can put a cap in my first love. My life's still gonna be a little heartbroken, but you know that the next chapter of his life is about to start, whether or not there's a sequel, which is kind of cool. I guess I can't even say it's an ambiguous setting, because it doesn't really end. It just keeps the universe of the movie keeps going on, which I guess is kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I think I would definitely recommend this to anyone who likes the slice of life, fish out of water, cliche, because they did it cool, they did it different, and like you guys said, I was laughing a lot of the times, when they stole the bully's flute and put it in the tree. I thought that was really just almost cartoony, but at the same time I was you know what, that actually I could do that. I could see myself doing that to a bully. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a B minus, but it's a solid B minus, and it just like you guys said, it wasn't for me. So after that, I want to thank everyone for listening to us. As always, please make sure to rate 5 stars, comment if you'd like to. Chris, thank you for coming on. It means a lot to me, to all of us.
I want all of you to, after you listen to this, cook yourself up a nice glizzy or a hot dog and look up pictures of people on ecstasy. That's and eat the hot dog while you're looking at it, and see what happens.
That's the hardest I laughed during
that
the
was
movie.
hilarious.
Thank you for reminding me. He just shakes his head and is like, nah.
He's like, nah, I'm not doing this.
That's all it took. Just nope. Oh yeah, and then that bunny ear given motherfucker. I thought that was a great line to end on. I thought that was awesome.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it.
Daniel Craig, I'm sorry.
Daniel Craig.